From the grind to the glory, one man's journey proves that heart, hustle, and determination change the game. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., where adversity is met head-on and champions are made. Here's George.
Welcome to Catch as Catch Can. I'm George Tinsley Sr., former professional athlete, entrepreneur, author, and your host. This is a space where we sit down with leaders who face real challenges, learned real lessons, and kept moving forward. Our guest joining me today is Mike McGlothlin, Executive Vice President of Retirement at Ash Brokerage, where he leads a team of over 60 and has helped grow the business more than tenfold over the last decade. He's also a recipient of the Ken Black Jr. Award for his commitment to ethics, education, and relationship-driven leadership. Outside of finance, Mike and his wife co-own Ageless Fitness and Vitality Booth Wellness Center, serving their community through evidence-based wellness solutions. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Well, we're excited to have you, and we'll have a good time here. Let's start off by just having you give us a little bit about your background, and starting from early. This podcast is about turning obstacles to opportunities, and so we like to emphasize no matter where you come from, you can still be successful. So if you might take us back and start wherever you want to, and let's get to understand and know Michael.
Yeah, well, the reason why I'm so excited about this podcast is I probably watched you play because I was a big Indiana Pacers fan, and my dad would get tickets every once in a while, and we would go down to Pepsi Coliseum and watch the Indiana Pacers, and their arch rival was the Kentucky Colonels. So I loved basketball. Part of my growing up was as a student basketball manager at Indiana under the legendary coach Bob Knight. That shaped a lot of different things that I deploy in management in terms of discipline, in terms of making sure that we're measuring the right metrics, and making sure that we're executing on the plan. And that has helped me throughout my entire career. I started out in the field selling insurance and in the banking industry, worked my way over the last 26 years through management, and now I lead a $4 billion sales organization with Ash Brokerage.
Okay, that's great. Now, you speak of your father taking you to the Indiana Pacers game. Now, I'm going to ask you, what decade was that?
That was the night. I can remember that in the 60s and early 70s. Yeah. So I think I probably saw you play because you were there, 69 through 70 with the Kentucky Colonels?
That's correct. Yeah. And we had some good battles with the Pacers. It was during that era for the audience was when you played the game, and then we drove back to Louisville, Kentucky, the home of the Colonels, and you could see the game later on TV. So it was not a live game if it was on TV. And I recall, if you remember Roger Brown, Roger Brown made a move on me one time that turned me around in circles. And I was a pretty great, in my mind anyway, great defensive player. But when I got back, when it was on TV, all of my friends they just made fun of it, laughed, and so forth.
Yeah, that was the early tape sessions with coaches. You just drove back and you could watch the game the same night, which probably made it even worse. But no shame in having Roger Brown make a move on you, for sure.
Yeah, I know. Believe today it's a highlight. Then it was an embarrassment.
Yeah,
exactly. Mike, so you grew up in Indiana, correct?
Correct.
In Indianapolis or outside?
Yeah, just outside of Indianapolis on the northeast side.
Okay. Well, so tell us a little bit about that growing up.
Well, for me, I grew up in a very middle America type of setting. My dad worked for an insurance company, so that's where I got my start in love for the financial services business. I think Mom and Dad were both very hardworking and set a perfect example for me. And then at the same time, it's great to have a disciplinarian as a role model and a mentor with a coach when you go to college. You can go down a bad path going to college, especially at a big school like Indiana. But I was able to maintain the appropriate grade point averages in order to remain as a student manager. But those things, those are lifelong lessons, and they just cemented what my mom and dad had taught me growing up in Northeast Indiana in Lawrence Township.
Mm-hmm. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother. Yeah, he followed a very similar path and works in the banking industry. I always remind him that he's much older, even though he's just 4 years older.
And keep that in the forefront. So obviously with Indiana winning the football title, being undefeated, and the basketball team being undefeated, one of the only schools that's had a undefeated basketball and football program. That's something to hang your head on.
I read that stat, and as we're recording this, we've just beat Purdue, our arch rival in basketball, here this week, plus won a national championship. And as I said, in Southwest Florida, it was below 40 degrees. So I'm not sure what the heck is happening, but a lot of strange things for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's something to be proud of. I have a brother that went to Indiana, and he's pretty excited about it, what's going on up there, still celebrating. So, Mike, during your early childhood, as you were growing, what obstacles did you have that you faced at the time in growing up?
Well, I think that you always have challenges, especially in high school years and things like that. I was always the last guy cut from the basketball team. I worked hard and I was a pretty good defender, but still, I just didn't have the athletic ability. Lawrence North High School is a larger high school. It's actually had a couple lottery picks from their basketball team. And if I were to stand up, you would see that I'm just not the guy to be able to do that, right? But I loved basketball. And so, part of growing up is to pivot. And again, that's kind of one of the challenges. You always have to pivot in business. And so I took the opportunity to be a student manager, and because I just loved being around the game. The guys who played were my friends, and so it gave me some social interaction. And so those are ways to make a positive out of a negative. I could have sulked in a corner and said, boy, I should be on that team, whatever. I looked at it realistically and then took an opportunity. And then I maximized that opportunity in collegiate world and then on into the business world.
So you were a trainer in college also?
As a student manager, yes. I was very fortunate. I sat at the end of the bench of the 1987 championship team. So we were not the undefeated team, but a national championship is a national championship.
Yeah,
and some great lessons from that as well. So.
Yeah. So did you go on scholarship or did you pay your way through?
Interesting, because I got a half scholarship my freshman year. And then Coach Knight was very generous and gave us a tuition and books scholarship our senior year. But then I worked at the Marsh supermarkets every summer in order to pay my tuition. And part of the deal with my mom and dad would be that they would put a roof over my head in terms of room and board, but I was responsible for tuition, books, and any type of fun money that I wanted. I was very fortunate to graduate with no student loan debt. In the financial services world, we talk about that the average college graduate today graduates with a degree, but $40,000 in debt. And that's just for a real basic business degree. And that sets kids back a bunch. And so that helped me tremendously. And one of the reasons that my wife and I have set up a scholarship at Lawrence North High School for student managers, where we give a full tuition scholarship for someone going to any university to be able to have a better chance at graduating debt-free when they graduate after four years. And we've endowed that scholarship for the next 25 years.
That's outstanding. Yeah. Because the tuition rate these days has just jumped through the roof. Yeah. So, yeah. But so what did you major in college?
I was a business major through what's now the Kelly School of Business, and we didn't have direct admits, and so you had to go through the 2 years of general studies and then apply to the business school. I was fortunate to get into the business school first time, so I didn't have to do a fifth year, which adds to the burden of debt.
So your dedication towards your educational environment and what you were doing came from your parents, came from what you were doing in high school, and the circle of friends you had around you, would you say?
Absolutely. My dad was the president of the school board. I was very fortunate. My parents were very active in my education, whether it was the PTA, the PTO, dad being on the school board. He was the first one to be elected to a second term as president of the school board in more than 50 years because of the respect that he had in the community. That was a good role model for me.
Yeah.
And so education was never in question, but I do think that the experiences that I've had are even a better educator than actual classroom. And that's what I try to teach when I'm mentoring and coaching, that sometimes I just say education is overrated. The experience is much better.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And you mentioned experiences. I want to delve back to Indiana, being a trainer or being a manager. Is that correct? The manager? You were
student manager, yeah.
Student manager, yes. And working under Coach Bobby Knight, that had to be a real experience.
It was a great experience. I tell everyone that Coach was my best professor at Indiana. And that's saying a lot because the business school was a top 10 business school undergraduate when I was down there. And I think the best story there is that after my freshman year, Coach was the Olympic coach in 1984. I had the great pleasure of driving Coach K down from the Indianapolis airport down to the Olympic trials in April of 1984. And he was one of the most genuine people that I've ever met. And he talked to me about being a student manager and really about just doing the basic things and really taking the real life situations that Coach Knight would be putting me in over the next 4 years, whether that's handling cash on the road, making bus arrangements and travel arrangements, and just interacting with people and making sure that I took all of that in. And for me, that was always a great life lesson for me. And over the next 3.5 years, I made sure that I took all of that in and really looked at what Coach Knight was trying to say, not necessarily how he was saying it all the time, but most importantly, the lessons that he was teaching those players and that team at the period of time.
And I know Isaiah Thomas, and I've heard him speak about his experiences with Coach Knight and going through the 4 years there. And he puts that right up at the top of all of his teaching, especially coming from Chicago and coming into Indiana. He was already had gone through a tough time, but he said Coach Knight really helped him form his thinking and everything. So it's good to hear. Could you kind of highlight some of the key responsibilities that you had during that time? You mentioned handling money and some of those things as a trainer. The reason I'm asking is there's a lot of kids out here, a lot of people out here that's watching this program that have youngsters who have an opportunity. They can't make the team, but they have an opportunity to become a trainer.
Yeah, it's clearly one of my best experiences of my life being a part of that team. And I think that there's no other substitute for building a team and being part of a team. And the things that he had us do, we had 14 managers on staff, and many times we were doing things that assistant coaches were doing at small colleges. We would make sure that we got tape from every team that we played throughout the season. We would have to reach out to alumni to find out in Richmond, Virginia, if we could get a tape of the Virginia Tech game. This is before cable and satellite television, remind you. And so we would have them videotape and then make sure that they mailed and we exchanged a blank tape for their use and things like that. We would subscribe to all of the local newspapers so that we would get articles on every opposing team, not only the school newspaper, but their local beat writers. And then that way we would cut articles for the assistant coaches to read about the team. We would splice down all of those games to offense and defense. We would take a 2-hour television game and we would basically make it 20 to 25 minutes for the coaches to take a look at. And then we would pare that down even further so that what the players would only see is every successful made possession. And then on the defensive side, every successful defensive possession. And so lot of time, effort, and energy, a lot of time inside of Assembly Hall between midnight and 2 a.m. But at the same time, you were expected to keep a grade point average up. And so all of those things, just you needed the discipline to study. You needed the discipline. And I'm a big time blocker today in business, and I preach that. That is at the basic foundational level where I learned about time blocking by being inside of Assembly Hall.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. If you think about what's going on today in today's University of Indiana and University of Kentucky and some of the bigger universities that have that large, I guess you would think there would be 15, 20 trainers today or managers that these teams have. You see standing behind the bench and so forth, and what they're actually doing with the new technology and so forth. That's a real career in itself.
There's a lot of opportunity, and that's out there, not necessarily even with the big sports, but even with the non-revenue sports. Just being a part of that team, being a part of winning teams can be such a valuable life lesson in my mind. It's great to be part of extracurricular in high school and college and doing something that's meaningful and helping the community as well.
Uh-huh. Well, tell us a little bit about Ash Brokerage.
Well, we are one of the largest brokerage general agencies. A brokerage general agency is, George, if you were to go to your financial planner and say, I need some guaranteed income in the form of an annuity, they would reach out to a firm like Ash Brokerage. And so we do business with about 3,500 financial advisors, and we helped over 22,000 Americans retire more securely last year alone. And we do that on an annual basis. And we raise about $4.1 billion of annuity premium on an annual basis. We represent 81 carriers, so we're operating in the best interest of the client to find out what is the best opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, is Ash Brokerage nationwide?
We are nationwide, and my responsibilities are nationwide. I have 18 wholesalers across the country. Then the other 40 report to me out of Fort Wayne. And due to COVID, we have hired remotely, which has been a big change and somewhat of a challenge, but we've been able to adapt to that pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the company has grown since COVID?
Yeah, we've grown since COVID. When I took it over 13 years ago, we were only at 350 million and we're at 4.1 billion. During COVID, we were only about 1.2 to 1.5. And so we've been able to kind of change a little bit. And we've been able to be more productive. And during that time, George, I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced is that we lost our largest account at that point in time. When we were about 1.5 billion, we lost our largest account, which was about 500 producers and represented $450 million of our $1.5 million sales. We actually grew the following year because we were able to dig deeper. We were able to find more productive advisors that were less transactional and more planning, more holistic. Our average ticket went from 75,000 to 175,000. So we've overcome a lot of different challenges and we've just dug deep. We followed the plan. We've been trying to be more productive and allowing ourselves to be in a better position to win, which is exactly what Coach Knight kind of teaches in any type of game situation. Put yourself in the best opportunity to win.
All right. Is there anything that you can talk to the audience about that really helped make that happen? Was there any specifics?
Yeah, one of my favorite practices, George, came on our run to the 1987 National Championship team. Our star player was a three-point specialist. In practice, he took a three-point shot and he missed it. And as you know, like a lot of long three-point shots, it's a long rebound. The opposing team captured that, ran to the other end, and unfortunately that person was trailing the play, fouled the person in the driving layup. We see that all the time. We turned a three-point shot into a three-point opportunity for the opposing team. Well, Coach Knight stopped the practice, as only Coach Knight can stop the practice, as you imagine. But he gathered the team around and he talked about a life lesson that's always been important to me, and I call it next possession. He talked and said, there was something technically wrong with that shot. Didn't get enough legs into it, hips weren't square, shoulders weren't square, something was wrong, but we would be able to look at the tape and find out what was wrong. But the real problem was, and every college kid does this, as soon as they miss a shot, they hang their head for just a split second. That caused him to be behind the play and compound his error. Then he spent the next 20 minutes talking about that and how it's going to apply in life and in business and in family relationships, so that we're always going to have turnovers. We're going to have bad situations. But what you have to be thinking about is next possession. And so what I always talk to my sales team is that we cannot react. We have to respond. And the difference between reacting and response is dramatic. And if we respond, we're going to be highly successful. And that was a huge life lesson for me. That's played out for me when I wasn't successful in my retail career. It played out when my wife took her life. And it played out when I had challenges at Ash Brokerage with lost accounts. It's always about next possession and responding to whatever happens.
Mm. So how often do you get with your team on an ongoing basis? Monthly, quarterly, weekly? What's your goal on that?
So we have a video platform, and this was before COVID. And so when people ran to the Zoom meetings and everything, we were already there. And so I communicate with my sales team via a Monday momentum message, positive message for the most part about what do we need to do? Here's some ideas. Here's what you may be telling your advisors to motivate them. And I send that out on a weekly basis, on a regular basis. And then I communicate with them throughout the week. We have monthly calls where the purpose is really just to share sales ideas. And then due to cost containment, we only get together with our teams on a semi-annual basis. But most of that time is to allow them to set the agenda and for them to talk and to share. That's where that experience from one another, sharing those experiences, that kind of lifts our entire organization.
Mm-hmm. At these meetings, these get-togethers, do you acknowledge those that have had some specific achievements as well?
We do. We always do Wholesaler of the Year and actually Teams of the Year this year. So I think that this past year, with some of our lost accounts, which we didn't have anything to do with, it was a result of mergers and acquisitions within the financial services space. Mm-hmm. We felt like the entire team dug in and had success, whether they grew or whether they were able to retain. And so we're actually awarding the entire team by the territory, Wholesalers of the Year, Internals of the Year, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it certain segments of the country that outperform others?
It's really by wholesaler, but yeah, we do a geographic deletion of our territories so that we have 18 individual territories. What that allows me to do from a leadership standpoint, George, is I really challenge my wholesalers to be the CEO of their territory, own that production. And that gets them buy-in so that when we're setting annual goals, I'm sitting down with them, they're telling me my plan, and then I'm rolling that all up into the 18 territories to make sure that I'm meeting our corporate goals. But that gets buy-in from that sales team. And that CEO mentality has been really critical to our success. When they own that responsibility, they are going to perform day in and day out.
Mm-hmm. So do you recruit or from the outside new folks coming in? If you do, how do you judge? How do you judge those to help with the success of your overall company?
So I've been very blessed that I have a seasoned sales team. I tell everyone I'm blessed that I have a seasoned sales team, but the challenge is I have a seasoned sales team, and sometimes it's hard for them to change. But most of my employees have followed me around for the last 20 years to different organizations. That has built trust over that 2-decade period. Now, having said that, we always have people who retire and change career paths and things like that. One of the other things that I'm most proud about is that we've had 23 promotions within my division. And actually, we have somebody that started out at the very entry level of managing cases and doing contracting. And he has worked his way up to a greater than six-figure income in a short period of time. And so by allowing people the opportunity to invest in themselves, recognizing effort, and coaching them along to what does the next level look like, I've been very successful in terms of keeping talent within our division and within our organization. And that's helped tremendously for our growth. That doesn't blow up relationships with our advisors and our customers, which is critically important to our retention as well.
Mm-hmm. So do you move your team around often, or they just stay in one geographical territory for their tenure? So that's first part of the question. Second part, what's the opportunity for advancement within the company?
So we do stick with the geographic nature of it. The reason for that is I want my wholesalers to build relationships and to get deeper into the territory. And I want that advisor to have a really positive experience with Ash Brokerage. I want them to know their internals and externals. We actually assign by territory their contracting manager, their licensing manager, as well as their case manager, so that when they submit a case, they know who they're going to hear from as that case moves through the insurance company and the policy gets issued to the client. We want that relationship level focused at every level of our organization. The opportunity for advancement is starting out at that contracting and case management, moving to a case designer where you're more sales oriented, moving to an internal where you're making a proactive phone call in sales, and then eventually moving out to an external wholesaler where you're that CEO of the territory. We have grown and we've added territories by splitting where we've had great growth. And so there's always opportunity with sales growth within our organization. I've been very blessed from that standpoint.
That's outstanding. You mentioned that a lot of your associates have moved with you over the last 20 years. What's the average time frame of an employee staying in the company?
From an Ash Brokerage standpoint, boy, it's got to be over 10 plus years. I know every Friday owners meeting, our CEO has a Friday owners meeting, and we start out every Friday owners meeting with new hires and anniversary. And it is not unusual to have a 22, 25-year veteran of Ash Brokerage at different levels. I can tell you that my wholesalers, the 18 wholesalers, they bring to the field over 700 years of cumulative experience in income planning and annuity specifics. So we have a very tenured sales force, and there's a lot of experience on our sales force that our advisors can leverage.
Mm-hmm. That's outstanding. Tell me about the Ken Black Jr. Award.
I've been active. I try to be active in a lot of our different associations, and it was recognition for our ethics, our education, as well as building relationships. I was the former past president of the Society of Financial Service Professionals on a national basis, which is now part of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, NAFA, which is one of the largest advocacy firms, trade associations in the financial services space. I was very honored to be elected into that position, and just recognition of the level of ethics that we have and that I've displayed, and also giving back to that associations in terms of presentations, speaking, continuing education, and trying to develop revenue sources for that organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So flipping a little bit here, tell me about you and your wife co-own Ageless Fitness and Vitality Booth Wellness.
Yeah, this is a love of mine. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes like 25 years ago. Up until the age of 50, I was able to manage that with diet and some light exercise. But like so many Americans, once I reached age 50, it seems like my metabolism just came to a screeching halt and my numbers went up. I knew I had to think differently. And again, it's just like what I learned at the top of this show. I just had to pivot. I had to do something different. And I got frustrated very quickly when my doctor put me on insulin. And then every time I would go back to the doctor as we developed and just crank up the pen and add more insulin. Well, finally, I met a holistic doctor and worked with a firm that had a new diet that was working, as well as different modalities like cryotherapy, like infrared sauna that works from your inside out, halotherapy, which is dry salt therapy. All of those things worked for me. And I was able to get off of 18 units of insulin in a very short period of time, more than 10 years ago, and I have not looked back. I'm healthier than I've ever been before. I actually ran my very best half marathon in the age of 59. And so there is a great opportunity for us to rethink healthcare, to rethink wellness. I always tell people wellness is a habit, healthcare is an event. We want to avoid the event. And so I've just completely changed my philosophy about healthcare. And so my wife and I said, we've got to share this with the community here in Estero, Florida. And so we found a franchise that was willing to do modalities like cryotherapy, halotherapy, vitality boost, and we enjoy it. We're helping a lot of people. We've got to educate a lot of people about how those modalities can help you live a better lifestyle, though.
You know, you're in a great area down there in Estero, and that's where a lot of our senior games take place down there at the big community center in that area, with a lot of seniors starting 45, 50 years old that come in there with all the different sports.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, let's have them in there. Let's have a conversation. We'd love to do some localized cryo to help them recover better. That's one thing that I've learned over the last 15 years. Recovery is critically important, and that's where cryotherapy really comes into play.
Take a minute and talk about it. A lot of people will be tuned in, and we'll make sure that you get the message out.
Yeah, well, Ageless Fitness, right here, we do a lot of cryotherapy, which is a chamber that is minus 124. That seems super cold, but I tell everybody, just like Phoenix is a dry heat, this is a dry cold. And so what that does for you is that reduces your inflammation. And when you have reduced inflammation, you end up having better performance and you have better recovery. We're seeing a lot of people who have arthritis or just soreness do cryotherapy, and the next day they wake up and they have far less stiffness than ever before. Our infrared sauna heats you up, and it heats from the inside out, unlike a wet sauna, and that's going to detoxify you better. And then also we have halotherapy in the form of vitality boost, where you stack 4 different modalities. You have red light, you have halotherapy, compressed oxygen, and negative ions, all in the chamber that you set in for 20 minutes. Red light has been known to regenerate cellular growth, which cellular health is a big issue here in the United States. Halotherapy is something that you just naturally breathe in. It reduces the inflammation. It soaks up all the mucus and inflammation inside of your pulmonary system, and then you just naturally secrete it out. We actually have people that have come to us with COPD and asthma. We know of 4 different people that have gotten off their inhaler completely through the use of halotherapy, and that is life-changing for so many people. So you perform better when you get more oxygen and things like that. So yeah, have your folks reach out to us. Be more than happy to give them a tour of the facility.
Yeah, you're located in Estero?
Yeah, we're located right here in Little Estero, trying to change the world from Estero.
Yeah, and we have you listed in our chat for the contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's Ageless Fitness FL. If anybody wants to check out the website.
Well, we have a large group of, and I don't participate anymore. I had 2 hip replacements, so I decided to stop playing. But I played right up to 75, as a matter of fact. But we have across the area down there and over on the East Coast, we have annual tournaments where we bring in all of the old folks, old guys and gals come in and participate. So we'll make sure we get that kind of information out. Tell me how working with your wife has been.
It's been good. You know, she is the visionary of this business. Most of our clients are 50 plus women looking for beauty secrets, things like that. We do cryofacials as well as fat loss and things like that, but mostly just people who are wanting to be able to move, to feel better, to have more energy. And so I always tell her she is our avatar, and she does a great job. You can follow along with social media. It's basically Ageless Fitness FL on Instagram, on TikTok, as well as any other social media. But she does a great job and really sets the vision for this place. Everyone comes in and says how clean it is, how crisp it looks. It's not your typical gym. And also, we get incredible compliments about our staff. They are well educated and they are super nice. And it is just a joy to be in here.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we have that listed also. And you, as you look back on your career, and let's see, what did you do after graduating? Did you go right into the Ash business at that time?
I started out in the banking industry, and then banking industry changed a little bit where it started selling insurance. And that's when I started thinking maybe I just need to just sell insurance because it excited me. And that's how I got my start in the insurance business. And that led to wholesaling. And then that led me to different positions and then ended up at Ash.
Okay. Well, as we start to close down the questions here, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience overall?
Well, I think that first of all, I appreciate the conversation here. It's been excellent. I hope that what people learn is just, wellness is so important. It avoids the burnout. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but most importantly, get engaged, whether you're at the community level or get your kids engaged in extracurricular stuff. That helps so much. That has helped me grow from the very beginning. And it's just perfect for the community as well, if you can get that into a kid's mindset early on.
And your faith, how's that played into what you've been a part of what you do?
Strong. We are a Christian-based business here. My wife makes sure that everyone is aware that we're Christian-based. We have a great picture. It's one of the only things hanging on the wall in here where it connects every Bible chapter with another reference. I don't know if you've seen that painting, but that is about the only thing that hangs on our wall here at Ageless Fitness. And so our faith is strong. And obviously, when you go through some of the challenges that I have, you have to be close to your faith. And when you think about how we've been successful, you just lean on your faith every once in a while, harder than some days, but you always have to have it, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you mentioned that you still do your work with Ash, with your company there, and you're good at managing your time between the two companies and being able to work through those challenges.
Yeah, my wife does most of the day-to-day leadership here at Ageless Fitness, but I have to hop in every once in a while. And, you're always having short staff in a small business and things like that. And then also we do community activities and educational workshops, and I try to speak at those as well.
Okay. Well, Mike, thank you for sharing your leadership journey with us all. And I know the audience out here appreciates, and we'll have some questions, hopefully some follow-up with you. I've enjoyed getting to know you and understanding how Coach Bobby Knight has affected another person's life. I was coaching at Louisville Mill High School, and we had a young man there by the name of Daryl Griffith that you may have heard of, Dr. Duncanstein, but he came in. Yeah, he came in recruiting him very aggressively, and that was my first time having an opportunity to meet him. Wade Houston and I were coaching together there, but quite an impressive guy and had a lot of influence on a lot of people. But we've appreciated having you, and we will make sure that we get your sites out there. And for the audience out there, this has been another podcast by Catch as Catch Can, and we'll hopefully see you next time. And Mike, we wish you luck in your endeavors as you move forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. The game isn't over. Your success story is just getting started. Head to TinsleySpeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., a production of Live Stream Editors.